Hello and welcome everyone to another installment of my Procreate for Beginners series. This video is going to be about the drawing guides and drawing assistance feature on the Procreate app. Now again, this is a series on my channel and this is one of the videos that's actually in the middle of the series. So there are ones that came before it that I've already made and there are ones that I'm going to be making afterwards. All of these videos, when they're done, are going to be available in my Procreate for Beginners playlist. So depending on when you are watching this, there may be some that are in there that came after this video as well. But for sure, the ones that came before it are in that playlist. The first video that's in that playlist that is called Procreate for Beginners is an intro to just about everything on the Procreate app. There's a few things that I didn't talk about at all. But most of the things I kind of went over in that video, at least like the bare minimum of what they are. And again, it's for beginners, so if you're really unfamiliar with Procreate, you should watch that video first. And I did go over some of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today in that video as well, but in this video I'm going to go into this topic a little more deeply. So if you're looking to learn a little more about the drawing guides and the drawing assist feature on Procreate, then you're in the right place. So let's get started. Okay, so this time I'm in the gallery here on Procreate. I just opened the app and this is kind of all the stuff that I work on for my own work. But I'm going to make a new canvas, so I'm going to click this plus sign over here in the top right corner. And then I'm going to click the plus sign that comes up next to new canvas, and I'm doing something specific for this topic just because I know there's something I want to show you that has to do with math. Not that you need to know that necessarily for your project, but I'm going to do a square first of all, but I'm going to do it in inches. So I'm going to click inches down here, and then I'm going to just do 12 by 12 to make it easy. Alright, so then I'm not worried about anything else right now. I'm just doing this to teach, so I don't even care what the color profile is or anything like that, so I'm just going to create. Alright, so that opened up a 12-inch by 12-inch canvas. Now, in order to get your drawing guide, you have to go to this wrench over here, which I call the settings menu, but I think it's actually called actions menu in Procreate. So whatever you want to call it. But the wrench, and then you have to go to canvas. So that's already highlighted because I was already looking at it already before I started the video. But make sure it's highlighted on canvas on the top here. And then drawing guide is, a little fourth one down. So you would turn that on first of all. And when you do that, the 2D grid will come up on your canvas, but you can edit it. So let's go to edit drawing guide. So there is a few things I want to show you here. When I said 2D grid, that's what I meant. It's on this one. There's isometric, perspective, and symmetry. We'll get to all those in a minute, but I'm going to go back to 2D grid for now. And the thing up here that you can change is actually the color of the lines. So you see that it's actually in this left-hand side over here, and that means it's like a black, dark bluish color over here. And then if you move it along, or if you click along it, it'll change the color of the lines. You can drag it too. Now if you drag it all the way on this side, because your background's white, you're not going to be able to see the lines because your background is white. So just keep that in mind. If you do have a dark background, however, on your canvas, you would want something lighter, so you might want to drag the color over here so you can see. But obviously we have a white one, so we're going to want it on this side with all the darker colors, unless you want to do a different color that you can see. But the thing I was going to tell you, and I think I did go over this in the intro video, something that I do kind of frequently is I accidentally, when I'm hitting done over here, I accidentally hit this first and it changes it to the white. This is kind of a bad design that they have, because I imagine I'm not the only one who does this. I don't do it all the time, but I try to be careful about it. But just in case that ever happens to you, and you're kind of like, where did my lines go? It's because you probably hit over here with this white rather than done, or before you hit done. So just warning you, that might happen. So that's the color, how you change the color. And there are a few other things we can change down here, but I want to show you also there's these two nodes. So the blue one, if you move that, it'll actually move it. You can move it, you know, up and down, left and right. And then this green one up here, you can change the angle. So if you're trying to do something on an angle, you'd be able to use this to do that. And if you wanted to go back to the original, you just click on the node and it'll take it, you have to do both. It'll take it back to where it was. The other things you can change down here are opacity. So obviously, you know, that will make the lines more opaque if you bring it up to max here, and transparent if you bring it down to none. Oops. So it usually starts out like the 30-something percentile. You can also change the thickness of the lines. So basically how well you can see and if they're distracting to you, you can turn them down a little on both of these things, depending on, you know, what you want. Now grid size, we're going to go over it in a second. I just want to note this assisted drawing over here is something we're going to talk about later on in the video separately. That's related to this. So I'm going to leave that off for now. But the grid size, see, you can move it, you know, left and right, and you can make it bigger and smaller. So you can make the squares inside bigger or smaller. But you can also click on this little oval, ellipse over here, and you can actually change it exactly. So remember when we made it 12-inch by 12-inch square? This is why I did it. You can actually, if you do it 6, it'll give you 2 squares horizontally and 2 squares vertically, because this is 12 and 12. So this is 6, 6, 6, 6. And you can do that, you know, 3 will give you 4. Now actually with this one, taking that in half again would be 1.5. And that will give you 8. So 8 times 1.5 will give you 12. But you see that it actually doesn't show you 1.5 here. It shows you 1. And it shows you 1 up here. But if you do 1 exactly, that's going to give you something different. That's going to give you 12 here, because 1 times 12 is 12. But you can't tell by like dragging this, because, you know, this is 1 and this is 1 and this is 1 until you get to 2. But they're not actually 1. So you want to, if you want it to be exactly 1, you would want to type that in. Or if you want it to be 1.5, you can type that in. Oops, I did 11.5. 1.5, you can type that in. But again, it shows as 1, but it's actually 1.5. So that's a little trick. Now that was because we did our canvas in inches. So I made this in inches as well. But you can also do pixels, centimeters, and millimeters as well, depending on what you make your canvas as. And you don't necessarily have to use it so it's perfect. Like, you don't have to use math and everything if you don't want to. Like you can just drag it like, okay, that looks pretty good. I'll just do it there if you want. Depends on what you want. So that's what I wanted to show you there. Well, let me show you too. So if you click done, it'll, you know, it shows your canvas with that grid that you made. And you can always edit it again if you need to. You can go back in here to edit and then just edit it. And then, so let's move on to isometric now. So this is when you're doing like a 3D drawing, and you can do all the same things to it. Change the color, and you can move these nodes around, and you can change the opacity and the thickness and the grid size. Now this one's going to be a little more complicated because it's not squares, it's, you know, these triangles, so you're not going to be able to get something, you know, perfect here. Half would be, you know, it gives you kind of half of the hexagon along the bottom. So I don't even want to figure that math out myself, you know, but I don't use this very often anyway, so I'm not really worried about it. But again, you can make it smaller and larger. And then hitting done, you know, just to show you, you would use this to make like a 3D version of something. So let's just see, you do like along this, and you might want to use like two drawing guides together so you can have like straight lines. But I'm not really doing this very straight right now. I'm just kind of trying to demonstrate. So this would be like a prism, right? That's what that's called, right? Triangular prism. So, you know, if you were doing something like that, you would use these guides for that. I should have just cleared the layer. That probably would have been faster. Okay, anyway. So going back to the drawing guide, that was the isometric. Now, perspective is going to be a different kind of 3D. It's the perspective type of 3D. So with this, you can actually, it says tap to create vanishing points. So you can tap to create vanishing points, right? So let me just show you. Let's say we're tapping here. Basically, like this would be like if you're looking like down a street and you're going to draw the buildings on the side and maybe a car going this way or a road. So it's got this, you know, perspective to it. But then you can also create two more vanishing points if you want. I don't ever do anything this complicated when I'm using Procreate, so I'm probably not the best person to ask about this or to demonstrate it, but I'm just going to show you as much as I can. But you can also tap off the screen to have a vanishing point that's off the screen. And you see there's lines that go this way to that node, but there's also lines that go this way to that node. And then, you know, you can do another one too. So up to 3. You can't do any more than that. So again, this is way above my head with all this complication with all these lines. Like I could probably do the one perspective vanishing point, but I don't know about anything else. But I know you can have up to 3. So that is something you can do. And then going over to, now wait, first you can change the color and bring the note, move you, if you mess this up and you want to move it, you can move it. And then opacity and thickness as well. So you can do that, and again, assisted is off. Now we're going to go to symmetry. Now you notice, well, you don't notice because it's in here. If you go to options, assisted drawing is actually on now because it kind of has to be on symmetry. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but just know that it's basically on for symmetry, and if you turn it off, it's not really going to do anything for you, because in order for this to work, you have to kind of have assisted drawing turned on. So yeah, I'm not sure why you wouldn't have assisted drawing turned on. I'm not sure how that would work. But anyway, we're going to keep it on. Let's go talk about everything else. So again, you can move these around. So if you didn't want your symmetry to be exactly in the middle, you can make symmetry with here and here instead of in the middle. And you can do it on an angle as well with this, if you wanted to. You can also undo with the 2 fingers, like the gestures I taught you in my gestures video, if you've seen that. But anyway, you can move those around. You can change the color again if you need to, and the opacity and the thickness. But if we go back over here to options, so this is vertical, so I'll show you what that means, you know, on the actual canvas in a minute. But you have vertical, horizontal, quadrant, and radial. Actually, let me just, so that's vertical, horizontal, quadrant, and radial. So those are the kind of symmetries you can use on here. Now this thing called rotational symmetry, we're going to get to that very soon. But I'm going to show you, go back to vertical, and I'm going to click done. And then I am going to show you what this means. So if you're doing this, anything you draw on this side is going to be mirrored on this side, and anything you draw on this side is going to be mirrored on this side. And again, I'm just, scribbling something just to kind of show you. So you see it like it's a perfect mirror image that way. Now let me show you, I'm going to get another color and go back to the drawing guide, and then I'm going to turn on rotational symmetry, and I'll show you what the difference is. So if you notice, I started here and it started copying me like exact mirror. So if I start over here again, you'll see that it actually starts down here instead. So it's actually flipping it this way as well, not just that way. And I have a quick shape on right now, so I don't really want that. Let me erase. But you see that it's actually flipping again that way as well. So it's doing like a mirror this way and a mirror this way kind of thing. So depending on what look you're going for, you either want to turn that on or off. And the other thing that I kind of glossed over that I want to show you, so if we go back to the layers, I was drawing on this layer 2 and it says assisted, because we have the drawing assist turned on. And if you were to try to do something on layer 1 that doesn't have the assisted, it's not going to do it. See? Like it doesn't mirror it at all. However, if you were to, we're going to get into this again at the end of the video, because we're going to talk about drawing assist in itself, but another way you can turn that on is you can go to the layer options menu here and go down to drawing assist, and you can turn it on that way, and you see it says assisted on here as well as here. So now when we try to draw something, let me get a different color again. Let's do the black. I'm on layer 1, not layer 2. And then we still have our rotational symmetry on. But you see that it's doing it. It turned it on for that layer as well, basically, is what that did. So that's that. I'm going to actually, let's just erase. Kind of see. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my drawing guide, show you, turn the rotational symmetry off again. We're going to go to horizontal and show you basically the same thing. So we're going to start with the black this time. So I'm going to draw over here, and it's going to copy me exactly right there. See? And you can move into both if you want. Again, I'm just scribbling right now. We're not doing anything fancy or anything. I didn't mean to hit that. And alright, so basically the same thing, and just to show you real quick, and if I were to turn that on again, it would do a similar thing again. So let's go back to the pink. I'm going to start over here, and it's going to end up over there. So there's that. I'm going to erase. And then I'm going to go back and edit this again, turn rotational off, and go to quadrant. And you see now that it's a little more complicated, because now there's 4 instead of 2. But when I started here, it mirrored it there, and then it mirrored it here as well. and then here, and then here, you know. Now if we do rotational on this, pick a different color again. Didn't mean to do that. So you see I started here, and then it did here, but then it flipped it this way, and then it did here, but it flipped it this way, and then it did here, and it flipped it that way, you know. So it's a little more complicated with the quadrant, and it's going to be even more complicated with the radial that we're going to do next. But again, depending on what look you're going for and why you're using the quadrant symmetry, you know, would depend on whether you would determine whether or not you want to use the rotational or not. So I forgot to erase, but we'll do that in a minute. Click this to radial. I'm actually just gonna get rid of this, and I'm gonna turn this on like I did before. That'll be a good way to do it. All right, so now we have radial on, and I turned it off, right? Let me check. I kind of forgot. Yes, I did. Okay. Sometimes I do things and I don't even know what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to start in here, and it's going to just copy. Actually, let me start over here. It'd be better to show. So it's going to flip it here, and then here and here, and then here and here and here and here when I do over here. See? Now, when I turn the rotational on here, I'm going to change the color just to show you. Starting in the same spot, this is going to be a little different, you'll see. I'm going to go this way this time. So I started here, and it's basically just copying it in the exact same spot, rather than flipping it in each radial space, rather than doing like a mirror. So again, depending on what you want to do would determine on whether or not you want to use rotational or not. So let's go back there. All right, let's turn that off. Let me actually just clear this layer out again. Oh, it won't let me because I don't have another one. All right, going back here. So going back to the 2D grid, talking about assisted drawing now. So if you turn this on, let me show you what it does. So we're just going to leave the grid the way it is. Turn this off. Now, what it does is, with the assisted drawing on, and again it says assisted here, with this grid, the drawing assist basically won't let you make anything other than a straight line according to the guidelines. And you can do it horizontally as well, and it's not going to let you, go any other way other than the horizontal line you're drawing. However, if you, like the quick shape, if you come up here, and you want to edit it, you can move it now if you want to. So that would be a way to kind of get around it if you have to, if you have it turned on. And just to show you, you can do that with the vertical as well. I didn't show you that, so see. But anyway, so you're only able to draw straight lines according to the grid. So if you want drawing assist on, you can do that. But otherwise, you can do that with all the other grids as well. Let me actually erase all this, undo, and change the drawing guide to isometric. Now we have assisted drawing on again, so you're only going to be able to draw against these lines again. You can't draw anything else. Like, it won't let you. You can only draw anything parallel to any of the grid lines, basically. And then it would be the same with perspective. Now I forgot to erase this off again. But I guess since this is on, that's fine. We'll just change the blue here. So this is a little different because each of these lines kind of goes to a focal point. So rather than, and it depends on which one you're following too. If you have more than, again, this is more complicated than I ever do anything with, so. But I mean, I can see what it's doing. Like, it's picking, you know, one of the lines that you're following. But all you can do is draw against those lines again. So that's what drawing assistance is. And again, if you don't have it on symmetry, let me show you that real quick. Let me erase all this. Now if you go to symmetry again, let's turn off assisted drawing once. See what I mean? Like, you can't actually do anything symmetrical, so I don't know why that's even an option to turn it off. It's perplexing to me. I'm not sure. So offhand, I can't think of any reason why you would turn that off, because you would just be able to do it by layer if you wanted to draw something that wasn't symmetrical on a different layer. So I'm not sure why that's an option. They should automatically have it on for that. But anyway, so just to show you, like, you can't, if you have that off, it's not going to be symmetrical at all. Okay, there is one thing I forgot to show you in the, one thing I forgot to show you in the perspective grid here, and it still has my nodes that I picked before, my vanishing points. If you messed up and you want to get rid of one, all you have to do is click on it and then hit delete. One more quick tip, if you want to, if you go into your wrench again, go over to the preferences or prefs tab here and go to gesture controls, go to assisted drawing. You can turn on any of these if you want a specific gesture to automatically turn on drawing assist for you. So this isn't a default thing. You can change it around if you want to. I don't, but if you want to do that, I just wanted to show you that it's available. Alright, that's about it for drawing guides and drawing assist. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. And as I said before, I have more to come on the channel in this series of Procreate for Beginners. We're going to go deep dive on some other topics that we haven't yet. Again, I'm kind of sussing out different categories of things at the moment. And there's an etc. category because that's kind of miscellaneous where I don't know where to put those yet. But something you have to look forward to are selections and transformations. I can't decide if I'm going to actually make that 2 different videos yet or if I'm going to combine them because they are very similar. They go together a lot. But I think that video is going to be pretty long if I do that. So we'll see when the time comes. But that's going to be coming up soon anyway, so we will figure that out pretty soon. Something I added recently is working with text, which you can add text to your art in Procreate, and then you can rasterize it so you can move, so you can do different things to it that you can't really do when it's just text, I guess. So we will explore that in another video. Then I'm going to take you through the brush library that comes with Procreate and show you the different kinds of brushes you can use and basically what you can use them for, the kind of things you can do with them. And then we're going to look at the brush studio, which is where you can make your own brushes So I'm going to teach you how to make a few different brushes, but we're going to go through the studio in one video that's kind of going to show you all the little things you can change, and then we'll make a few brushes together. And then we're going to look at the adjustments menu, which is what you can do basically usually like after you're done with your work, but sometimes it's in the middle too. But you can do different things to your art that you've made, like changing the color, kind of the hue or the brightness or whatever of the whole, layer or whatever. And you can do things like motion blur and stuff like that. So that's what that is. And then we're going to dive into like the animations part of Procreate as well. And then some of the things that are in the etc. are kind of background things like inserting something in, like a picture or a file into Procreate, how to do that. Inserting maybe if you were to buy or acquire in some way someone's brushes that they made that they're sharing with you, how you would be able to import those. And also if you make your own things like brushes or palettes or even your art, your layers, things like that, you can export those things, and I will show you how to do that. So kind of importing and exporting, that might be one of the topics that we talk about separately. But then also there's other things like that are kind of in the background that I don't really have much of a category for. That's why it's etc. So we will be getting to those things. Once we're done with all of these deep dives onto these topics, then we're going to start working on like practical projects that take a lot of these concepts together and how you would use them practically while you're making art rather than just kind of looking at them separately. So we're going to get to that pretty soon, as soon as we get through all these deep dives. And again, depending on when you're watching this, they may already be ready. So check that playlist. But that is it for this video, so I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.